Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. Goodness, it's been about 2 weeks since I've been out here in the garden. We took some time off and had a lovely time. I hope all of you had a very happy holiday season. We had a great time spending time with family, relaxing, watching tons of movies, just really enjoying the season. And it was so nice and so wonderful. But I have to say, I'm very excited to be back out in my garden, especially on a day like today because it's bright, it's sunny, the sun's out. It's just a gorgeous, crisp, clear winter day and a perfect day for planting some tulip bulbs in my winter garden. So every year I try really hard to get my spring blooming bulbs planted on time. And in my area, on time means anywhere from November up until mid-January, second week of January. And I always try and get them planted before the rush of the holiday season. And every year I fail. I don't know how I fail, but that's okay. I still have some time to get them in the ground. And your timing depends on your region where you live. So check with your local garden center or your master gardeners or just your fellow gardeners to see what the right time is. But basically, the colder you are, the earlier you need to plant the bulbs. Now, I love that spring blooming bulbs can be planted this time of year. They can be planted in the dormant season, the dog days of winter when there's really nothing else going on in the garden. It's the perfect thing to do because I don't know about you all, but this is one of my least favorite gardening jobs, bulb planting, because it is so hard to get yourself out here and plant bulbs and not be able to get that immediate, that immediate payoff. You have to have faith in planting when you're planting bulbs. So it tends to be the job that I always push to the end of my to-do list, which is probably why I never get it done before the holiday season. And luckily in my zone, I can do it up until the second week of January, which is usually when I plant bulbs. But I do have to say, if you live in milder climates like I do, you do have to do a little bit of prep work with certain spring blooming bulbs. In particular, at least for where I am, zone 9, it's tulips, muscari, hyacinth, and crocus. Those are the 4 that need to be pre-chilled before you plant them in the ground. If you live in even warmer climates than mine, you might also even need to plant daffodils. And I want to introduce you all. I've shown you this, pretty much every year, but this is my bulb fridge. So this is my dedicated bulb fridge. And yes, I am a crazy garden lady that has a dedicated bulb fridge in her garage. But it was actually pretty lucky because when we moved into this house, this fridge was actually the one that was in the kitchen, and it was broken. The light didn't work, and it wasn't chilling very well, and so we either had to send it to the dump, to the landfill and get a new one, or I could leave it in the garage and use it as my dedicated bulb fridge, which was fabulous. And so this is where I pre-chill all the bulbs that need pre-chilling, like tulips, like hyacinths. I do have alliums in here, but these do not need to be pre-chilled. I just stored them in here. And normally there's nothing else in here other than the bulbs, right? And maybe some champagne or something like that. But it's really important that you don't store fruits or vegetables in your bulb fridge because fruits and vegetables, they emit or release ethylene gas. I think it's ethylene. And that's the same gas that causes bananas and apples to turn brown. And that can also mess with your bulbs and get them to basically start growing in the bulb fridge and basically will ruin them, basically cause them to rot. So it's really important that you don't store that. Normally we have nothing in here. Like I said, right now we have some leftovers because of the holiday season, and all of our other places to store things are completely chock full. So they got put in this bulb fridge, but usually there's nothing in here other than these bulbs. And these bulbs are getting a little bit of extra cold that my climate does not give them outside. So if I lived in a colder area, I could basically plant all these in the garden earlier in the fall, and then they would get the same temperature that they get in here. We just don't get cold enough. So that's why you pre-chill bulbs. And if you're lucky to find bulbs that are already pre-chilled, fabulous. Then you don't have to worry about it. You might have to pay a little bit extra, but most places sell bulbs that are not pre-chilled, and you need to make sure you pre-chill them. I just showed you all daffodils here here in my area, you do not have to pre-chill daffodils, but again, I have this space and it's just easy for me to store them in there. So the recommended amount of time for pre-chilling your spring blooming bulbs that need pre-chilling is 8 to 12 weeks. However, I have done it in as little as 6 weeks and it's been okay. It's very, very variable. It just depends. But the consequences of not pre-chilling enough is you can have no blooms. You can have a ton of foliage and no blooms. You can have blooms, but very, very short stems. So if you ever see your tulips grow and they're super short, and the blooms are like right next to the ground, that's probably because they didn't get enough cold during before blooming for them to bloom properly. Another thing I just read is that hyacinths that don't get enough chill time will actually have less scent. So for planting today, I am going to be using an auger, and I am going to specifically be using Garden Answer Laura's bulb auger, which is nice and tall so I don't have to bend over. And one of you sent this to me and the box and card got thrown away before I had a chance to write down your name and say thank you. So I'm sorry about that. But I appreciate this because I think it's going to save my back while I'm planting all these tulip bulbs today. So I find it always tough to talk about who needs to pre-chill bulbs and who doesn't, because it is so very variable. The best way that we in the United States at least can classify where we live and what our recommendations are based on the USDA zones. And the USDA zones are not great. They're not specific. The only thing that they take into account is how cold some place will get at least once in the winter season, in the cool season. And getting down to that temperature might not be enough to get enough pre-chilling. So I always say the recommendation is if you live in zones 8 and above, you need to pre-chill. You need to pre-chill tulips, hyacinth, muscari, and crocus. If you live in zone 10 and above, you need to pre-chill daffodils. And ultimately, I always get comments and messages from people letting me know that they are in zone 8 and they have never had to pre-chill their bulbs and they've always bloomed beautifully. And that's fantastic, but that's also because we all have little microclimates. So I would say the best advice I can give, not knowing exactly where you are, is 1, go ask your neighbors because they'll know better than anybody. And 2, if you're unsure, go ahead and pre-chill because you're putting all that time and effort and energy into your bulbs and you want to make sure that they bloom properly because you need to get some type of payoff for all of this work. All right, so what I am planting today, you all probably saw, is I have 400 red tulips to plant. I got these from Costco, and I have to say this was kind of an accident to get 400 red tulips. I was late to go get them at Costco this year, and I didn't order any, and this is really all they had, and I think it was kind of a blessing because it's going to be amazing. Red tulips are just so classic and so beautiful, and I think it's going to be really amazing. And I decided to plant them around my gazebo this year. I'm kind of just going to plant them all around, and so it'll be kind of like a sea of tulips. And I was kind of thinking about, it's a little bit like Wizard of Oz and the Field of Poppies, but they're not poppies, they're red tulips. But you guys, you know kind of what I'm saying. That's kind of the look that I think I'm hoping it's going to look like. So I'm really excited about it, and I think it should be really, really pretty. So 400 bulbs is a lot, but having the auger I think is going to help me a lot, make it go by a lot faster. And I'm not putting it on myself that I have to get all 400 planted, but I'm really hoping that I can like get in the zone and get it all done today so I don't have to commit to another day of tulip bulb planting. As you saw in my bulb fridge, I have other bulbs that I need to plant as well, but at least I can get a good start on getting these bulbs in the ground. All right, so I'm about halfway done with planting my bulbs. So I've got about 200, I think I'm more like at about 150 in the ground right now. I've got them all planted on this side of the gazebo up until the dry creek bed. I still need to work on this side of the gazebo. I'm just taking a little bit of a break. But I wanted to talk about bulb food. So I've been using Espoma bulb food and EB Stone bulb food. I think that they're both the same, and honestly, I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to using fertilizer when planting bulbs, because technically, if you think about, a bulb has all the nutrients, everything it needs already stored in this little package. That's why it's so great. Bulbs are so fantastic, and corms are so fantastic because it has everything that the plant needs right there in this little package. However, you know, some people say that adding a little bit of fertilizer to your planting hole helps with root development and flower formation. And they also say that if you live in a mild climate where we have a shorter period of time where the bulb can kind of develop and we need that bloom to come very, very quickly before it gets too hot in the spring, having a little bit of fertilizer in the planting hole is really good. Now, you definitely don't need it. It's more important to pre-chill your bulbs. It's more important to plant them in the right spot. It's more important to plant them at the right depth. And it's more important to make sure that they have plenty of water, the amount of water they need. But sometimes I think this is just a little bit extra. I haven't used this the past couple years because we have amended our soil so much with compost that I didn't think it needed it. This year we didn't amend this area with compost, so I thought I would use it this year. But honestly, I think it's a toss-up. I really should do a test or something, like a side-by-side test to see if it really does make a difference. But I just decided, it's kind of just how I feel at planting time. Am I going to use it? Am I not? And this year I decided to use it. But I think I'm done. Okay, the sun is going down a little bit, even though it's only like, I think 4 o'clock. But I got 300 of the red tulips planted, not 400. I have 100 left over, but I made it all the way around the gazebo to the area that I wanted to plant it. I probably could have planted them a little bit tighter together, closer together, but it was just easier with the auger, just kind of spacing them the way I spaced them, and I think that they'll still look really pretty. The bulbs are really big bulbs, and so they're going to be really big tulips anyway, so I think that they're going to be fine the spacing that I did. You can kind of see where I disturbed the soil. I came all the way around here and then past the red bud right there, all the way up along the dry creek bed and right over to where Monty is. Monty, leave it. Leave it, bud. Come here. Come here. Yes, he is attracted to the fertilizer, and I just have to keep him away from it and cross my fingers that he doesn't dig any of these tulips up. So cross my fingers and knock on wood. Anyway, so I'm glad I got all these done. I think it's going to be beautiful. I would say the only thing I'm a little worried about, though, you can see where the sun is over on this side. So this side of the gazebo, the south side of the gazebo, is going to get a lot more sun than the north side, and I think that might cause a little bit of a difference in the bloom time with the tulips. Like this side might bloom first because they'll get warmer and more sun than this side, but we'll kind of just wait and see. That's why I didn't do the test with the fertilizer, because it's not going to be a perfect test anyway. I want to do the test if I do a test with fertilizer and I put some fertilizer on some bulbs and some not on some bulbs. I want it to be in an equal spot where it has equal sun. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, I'm happy that I got it all done. And this is bulb planting. It looks like I did nothing all day except for disturb the soil, but I got 300 tulip bulbs planted. And honestly, the most important thing is I got to spend a couple hours outside in my garden in this beautiful winter weather. Look at how gorgeous today is. It's absolutely beautiful. We're supposed to get a little bit of rain later on this week, so I'm trying to enjoy the sun for while I have it. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.